So I know that September ushers in fall with pumpkins and colored leaves and that chill in the air that makes you want to grab a cider and a blanket. Except that I live in Southern California, and right now it is hella hot and there is not a colored leaf to be found. It's hard to pull out that traditional fall decor when the thermometer is still screaming summer. So I decided to do some pieces featuring sunflowers. I thought that that might be a good transition from still summer, but moving into fall. Let me know in the comments if you're ready for fall or if you're still hanging on to summer. First up is this wreath that starts with this great metal frame that I picked up on clearance at Michael's. Now its original price I think was like $10, but it was like $2 on clearance. So I would not have paid $10 for this frame, but definitely $2. I actually went back and bought a couple more. It originally was white, but I sprayed it gold to better match the color palette. I picked up this metallic netting at Dollar Tree, actually for another project that I'll share later in the video. It took a few tries to figure out how best to twist the netting around the upper frame. I tried it tight, I tried it loose. In the end, I decided I wanted it kind of drapey, but it also needed to be twisted and a little tight to some extent so that it would stay on the frame. Also, I decided that I wanted to be able to reuse the frame, so I tied everything onto it rather than gluing. Now, a thin wire like floral wire would have been smart, but I don't have any, so I chose to tie everything on with jute twine. Next, I added flowers. This pick came from Michael's, as did the larger sunflowers. The smaller ones came from Dollar Tree, and honestly, even though they were a bit more expensive, I prefer the larger ones. All of Michael's fall florals were 40% off, so this price was right. So I struggled a bit with how best to attach the flowers. My first try was to actually scotch tape them together. That did not work. Finally, I took advantage of the mesh bottom and put the flowers through the mesh so that the stems were on the back and the flowers on the front, making sure that I tied them all down so they didn't fall off. I also decided that it looked better with flowers on only half of the bottom, so I took more of that metallic netting to cover the part of the wreath frame that wasn't covered with the flowers. So I finished the wreath with this home sign that I picked up at the Dollar Tree. I painted it with brown metallic paint, added a large sunflower in the O, and then took my black acrylic paint pen to do a dot and dash pattern around each letter. I hung the home sign in the middle of the wreath. I used metallic acrylic paint pens on the jute twine to help it blend in a little bit better. I absolutely love how this turned out. If you're feeling inspired, I hope you'll give this video a thumbs up, and you might as well join the Koala crew by subscribing to my channel so you don't miss another video. So I was inspired by the candy corn in a bowl DIYs to do something similar with sunflowers. I picked up this canister at Dollar Tree along with a couple of bunches of sunflowers and a battery-operated pillar candle. I highly recommend that you grab some of these pillar candles because they're pretty dang cool. I pulled the sunflowers off the stems and then trimmed off the nub and the back and split them between the candle and the inside of the jar. I then needed something to cover the screw top grooves and try to avoid gluing something on, as I wanted to actually use the canister as a canister. So the first thing I tried was this metallic netting. However, I could not get it to seem to tie on properly. So next I looked at some narrow ribbon that I had, but they weren't wide enough, nor were they long enough. So finally I settled on this piece of burlap, which was actually left over from another DIY, but I did end up having to glue it to the jar. I liked how it looked, but it did need something along the top as well. So I added this narrow ribbon. After I put on the burlap, I thought, I could have just put sunflowers around the rim. Oh well. Another option for this jar is to fill it with some of that metallic netting. I put brown on the bottom and then yellow, which I also have for this other project coming up later. And I thought that this kind of mimicked the look of a sunflower. So you could do this with the candle in the middle, or you could just put some sunflowers in the top and make it a flower vase. However, my plan for the final look for this jar was to actually add these cute sunflower stickers also from Dollar Tree, and fill it with candy or nuts. However, since I no longer had a way to screw on the lid, I opted to put the stickers onto the candles, and I actually like this better. So I picked up this large felt sunflower at Dollar Tree, but felt it was a bit plain. And I saw that metallic netting and thought, maybe I could use this to give it some pizzazz. At first I tried to do a ruffle kind of thing for the petals, but I couldn't keep the pieces down long enough for the glue to actually dry, so I decided to do more of a puff. So the netting was wide enough to do 2 petals, so I cut pieces that were longer than the petals and then glued one side for each piece all the way around, let that dry, glued the other side down, let that dry, and then glued the middle and then the tip. I then realized I really needed to do a whole stripe of glue where each petal kind of met in order to actually create the illusion of individual petals. In hindsight, I could have done the stripes right off the bat instead of the dots. And I also could have done 2 pieces as they came together at the same time, but whatever. Once the glue was dry, I trimmed the loose netting, and I was really happy with how this turned out. So now for the center. So my initial thought was to try and do little balls of netting that would resemble seeds. That quickly went out the window when I realized how much time it would take. So plan B was to twist the netting and just place it down in a spiral pattern. I made the first round tight, mostly to make sure I covered all the loose ends of the yellow netting. And then as I continued moving towards the center, I loosened the netting. This really, in all honesty, was to conserve the netting because I'd already used the netting for the wreath and that glass jar, so I was running low. But to be honest, it gave it a puffy look and more of a 3D look, and I actually liked how it ended up turning out. It is a bit bare in the center, but I mounted it on this large wood round from the Dollar Tree that I painted with a brown metallic paint, so that bare center is really less noticeable. I really love how this turned out. Throughout the summer, Dollar Tree had sunflower themed dinnerware, and my Dollar Tree still had a few of these sunflower wine glasses. Now, I certainly support using these wine glasses for their intended purpose, but I also thought they'd also be great for a few quick sunflower DIY. First, they look great with just a small little bouquet of sunflowers. I put a couple of inches of white sand from the Dollar Tree to help hold the flowers in place, and these are larger flowers that I had picked up from Michael's. So if flowers aren't your thing, how about a candle? Swap out the flowers for tea lights or even votive. The sand is a great base to keep those candles stable. Or melt a Dollar Tree candle and pour the melted wax into the glass to turn it into a beautiful candle. Make sure you use an oven mitt and just pay attention to where you put it once you take it off. I really love how these projects turned out, and I think these sunflowers are really a great bridge between summer and fall. Which one of these projects inspired you? If you thought this was a quality video, please give it a thumbs up and consider joining the Koala crew by subscribing to my channel. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope that you have a quality day.
You gotta focus on yourself, on your faith, on your dreams, on your mind, on your health, yeah. You gotta work, never tell, keep your head down, find what you love and excel, yeah. Push and pull and repel any hate, go create what you want, feel compelled, yeah. And once you finally get a taste of the race, you'll never look back once you felt that.